Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing the second part of this series here in our little firearms disassembly series. This one's going to be centered around the AR15 kind of Armalite style standard assault rifle that you would find everywhere in America these days. And of course, we'll just jump right into it. So again, just like in my last video, we're going to be starting at step 0, which is going to be clearing the weapon. So there's nothing in the mag here. And then we are going to clear our bolt, which is clear. It's a bit difficult to show you on camera there, but I'll go ahead and give her a shot here. You can see, sort of, that she is in fact clear. There's nothing in there. So, I hope if I collapse this stock in a little bit, maybe I'll be able to fit most of it on the table. I can. Cool. So the first thing that you want to do after ensuring that your rifle is clear is going to be to flip it to the opposite side here. And you have this front pin and this back pin. So I'm going to remove the back one first. There's a few things that you can use for this. I would recommend using something that's not going to scratch the surface of your receiver. I'll just put a little something over top of it here. And then you will push. That one's starting to come out. We'll do this one in a minute, but I kind of want to show you how this works. So it's pretty easy. You just tap on it, apply some pressure. We will flip this back over here and we will pull our pin out. Now, when you're doing this, dependent upon orientation, you want to do that so that way it doesn't pop open on you, because now the entirety of the rifle here will kind of fold around this other pin here, like this. So you will now have your internals on display. And then we do the front pin here, and then the upper and lower will be separated. So, and do the same thing to the front one, which is actually oftentimes more difficult. Let me see if I can give it a little push. Otherwise, we might have to give her a bit of a pop here. There we go. Again, once this pin separates, the weapon will be in 2 pieces. So it helps if you hold it, but if you come here, pull this, you now have 2 pieces of your weapon. So we'll set the upper barrel portion aside for now, and we will look at our lower. So in your lower, you have obviously your stock and your mag well, as well as your bolt release right here and your mag release right here. So you have your safety. So your safety rotates. You've got safe and you've got straight up and down, which is fire. In the safe position, obviously nothing's going to happen no matter how hard you pull the trigger. In the fire position, you pull the trigger, the hammer will drop. You also have your mag release here. Now this bar on the inside, you have this, which interfaces with the slot on your PMag right here. So as you stick that in, you have this bar interfaces with that slot. When you push the button to release your magazine, you see this this bar comes out, and you'll be able to see that's how your mag drops. So it's pretty ingenious, actually. The bolt release here, how this works is once your magazine is empty, your follower is shaped in such a way that when it rides up, this tiny little spike here, the follower pushes up on it. Like that. Oh. Like this. And keeps your bolt from going forwards. It actually holds open on this ridge here. So that's why when you want to drop your bolt here, you push this and see how it lowers that thing? What happens is you push it, this lowers, and your bolt slams forwards. And that's how the bolt hole open works on these rifles. So the next thing we're going to look at is our trigger grouping here. So this is your hammer right here. We'll swap the fire. So when it's in safe, notice how I can push on this hammer and it only moves a tiny little bit. If I flip this to fire, look, there's a lot more movement in it. And when I pull, it'll drop. So let me set this up here. We'll get a kind of a close-up of how this works. So you can see inside you have, well, first off, you have your trigger that curves up, and there's a flat platform with a round hole in it, and that's where your trigger pin goes through. This has a very light trigger pull. I have a really good trigger on this rifle. When you pull the trigger, you will notice that the hook here on top, there's a hook shape that comes out the top of the trigger. Notice it moves. That little hook interfaces with the little hook here in your hammer. So this is the cocked position. When you pull the trigger, it releases that hook and allows the hammer to swing forwards. This will strike your firing pin, which I will show you in a moment. Inside your tube for your shoulder stock, you have this spring. This is your buffer tube. This is also basically a recoil spring. Your bolt seats against here and blows backwards with each shot, and the spring pushes it forwards again. To get it out, there is a tiny little retaining pin right here that is spring loaded. If you push down on this, your entire spring will come out. Very interesting method of keeping this in. You see it's not round, it's actually got flat portions. The rotation of this is key, because if you rotate it up to where I see that the flat portion is against this pin, it makes it a lot easier for it to come out. So all you do is push down and this will all come out. When you're firing or when you're going to be using the weapon, I always kind of rotate it to where the round portion is down so you have as much surface area contact in this pin as possible. So one more time, that is the hammer down, you pull, and it releases it like that. Okay? And that's basically your receiver with all of your controls on it. The way the safety works, the hammer has to be back for this to work because it pulls on the trigger slightly. And what happens is we're in fire right now, and you see the safety here has this round tube back here. When you rotate it, it's actually not round all the way through, right? It's actually flat on one side. So what this does is this flat portion in fire is oriented downwards like this. And that will enable your trigger, it has clearance, your trigger can pull, and that releases your hammer. When the safety is in the safe position, it's kind of shaped like a half circle. So it goes like that. So what happens is you're basically rotating and your trigger has no clearance to pull. So what happens is your trigger will not move. It's blocked perfectly by your safety barrel in there. When we flip it back to fire, you notice it is perfectly around on top. You flip it. Oh, this is safe, sorry. When you flip it to safe, you see that flat portion rotates and points to the back. You flip it to fire, it rotates downwards and it enables your trigger to drop. You have some clearance there. And that is basically your inner workings in your receiver here. It's pretty simple. Now here we have our barrel. You have the important little pieces here, such as your dust cover. There is a little spring and a little dimple here. And there is a cutout on your bolt that engages the action here. So that if you close this, when you pull the bolt back, it'll spring open automatically. Now something about the bolt carrier group in these rifles, and I'll go ahead and remove the bolt for you here. All you do is you take your handle and you pull. Your bolt will come out first, and then you can pull your handle out. To get your handle out, and this will be very difficult to show with the absolute length of this barrel. To get your handle out, you have to pull it back to a certain point, and then you'll notice it'll want to rotate. You will rotate it back and then pull it out. See these fat flanges that pop out? There's cutouts inside your chamber here that they have to slide into, and then it just slides right in like that. So we'll set this aside for a second. So this is your bolt, right? You got your rotating locking bolt here. It does rotate. And basically, we'll go through some of the pieces here. This little thing on top is what interfaces with your handle. And how that works is obviously when you pull, it pulls the bolt back, and then that buffer spring inside your stock is what pushes it forwards. Now these are two separate pieces. So something that Hollywood, well not really Hollywood, but a lot of video games get wrong is that in a lot of these rifles, a lot of these games, when you're shooting the rifle, this entire unit moves back. So you're shooting, and as you shoot, the charging handles moves back with each shot. That doesn't happen. So what actually happens is the bolt moves backwards, but the handle stays the same. And inside of your inside of the upper, because of this little lock that locks into a cutout right here. So your charging handle does not actually move or reciprocate when you fire an AR15. So what do they mean by rotating bolt? As this bolt comes back, this part moves back first. And you'll see there's this little cam with this thing that rotates. See that? So that's what they mean by rotating bolt. And then you have your firing pin in here. So when this gets smacked, it has to get smacked pretty hard. But when that gets smacked, your firing pin ends up coming out of your out of this little hole, and then it ignites your primer, which fires your bullet. So to get all this back together, you have to put the charging handle in first. So take your arrow here. And remember what I said about lining up the flanges here. So you will take, and you'll notice, you'll slide it into this upper portion here. Like that. And it'll get to a point, it just dropped in. Those little flanges drop in, and then you can push it forwards and seat it like that. Then you'll take your bolt. This geared looking end always goes towards the front of the weapon. And you will put it in like that. You will pull your charging handle back first, actually, but don't take it out. And then it kind of goes in together. Make sure this is all the way forwards. Smack that forward release if you need to. Now we can put the upper and lower back together. To do that, we will take our lower here. And it's actually pretty simple. It's just these are very heavy parts. I got a big old barrel on this thing. So I found doing the front first helps. All you gotta do is line it up here. Make sure that it's as lined up as possible. Smack it, boom, right into place. Helps if your hammer is back. So flip your hammer back like that. Rotate like that. These will mate together. Might have to give it a little push. And then sometimes they don't want to line up perfectly. You have to see that gap there. You have to make sure that this is lined up, and then that'll push in like that. Now, what the forward assist is for. Say you're very light. See that? You can see in here, the bolt is not all the way forwards. Giving it a little smack like that will help you get it forwards. Otherwise, you would need to push this charging handle forwards, but it's still not completely forwards. There's a little bit of a gap there. So you do that, and the more you do it, the better it works, but give it a good pop. That's what the forward assist is for. Quick side set to these little P-mags. Taking apart a P-mag, it's pretty easy. As you push this little button, you would give this a little push. Your base plate will slide off. Cover your mag. You have your follower, and then your spring holder for your base here. These do all come apart as well. See, the spring just kind of hooks into the bottom of the follower there. And then on this one, you have these little flanges that hold your spring in on the side here. And you can pop these parts off. When you are ready to put it all back together, simply orient this so it lines up. So the square side goes to the back. You can see the follower, this base plate thing is tapered towards the front, just like your mag housing here. So obviously it only really goes in one way. You also have this little cutout here to help you too. Slide her in, push all the way down, put your hand over top. See the railing there? Oop. Slide her over. Try not to pinch your fingers, and it'll slide right in, like that. And then you have your mag back together. So we'll go ahead, pop that on in there. That's the mag release here. Comes right out. You have your safe, fire, move it to safe, no trigger pull, fire, it will be a fire. You'll hear that hammer drop. Safe to note that it's normal, you will not be able to put this in safe unless the hammer is back. And again, you can see that mag release in action right there. Take a note of what I was talking about earlier. The bolt locks back on that little mag piece there. Not mag piece, a little lever that comes up on an empty mag. You push this button, it will slam forwards. I will try and make that a little bit more cushioned. So when you push, note how the bolt will drop forwards. We have the dust cover closed. As you can see, when you pull back on the bolt, it will automatically open, just like that. And that'll just about do it for this video. So very, 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 very basic deconstruction of the AR15 platform. In a later episode, we can go into taking off the buffer tube. You need a special tool for that. I do have it in my garage somewhere. This is taking out your buffer spring, recoil spring, whatever you want to call it, as well. We can also go into doing some of that. Super easy things. The trigger group is a pain to take out. You have to hammer out all these pins. They were a pain to get in. But overall, not a very hard weapon to disassemble. It's just pin, the half split, and then you have full access to clean anything that you need. And that'll just about do it. So this rifle is not yet quite complete. I don't have a rear sight for it yet. I need to get one, among a few other little things that I need to grease it up. But I did build this one myself from parts, from the smallest of parts. Very intricate. So I do know the ins and outs of it here. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video.